Following up on the recent sex assaults in the south area of Vancouver, so South Cambie, South Oak, and the South Granville neighborhoods. Unfortunately, working with the most recent victim that's extremely traumatized as a result of that incident, we weren't successful in obtaining a composite sketch that we will be releasing to the public. And we do remind the public to be vigilant in those neighborhoods, to report any suspicious activity to the police, and of course any calls made to the police in that area will be responding to very quickly. We will have an enhanced police presence in those neighborhoods, but we do, like I said, we still do encourage the public to let us know if they see anything suspicious in those neighborhoods. Any questions about that? Okay, so I'm going to invite Brian up. Brian's going to talk about the other two and then we'll switch.
Okay. So police are asking for the public's help in locating a missing teenage boy. What I will say is this is an Ottawa police investigation, so there are limited details that I'll be able to provide you. Most of your questions will have to be forwarded to the Ottawa Police Service. I can provide you with a contact number when we leave here. But basically, this is an individual. He was 14 years old at the time. He was reported missing 5 years ago today. So October the 8th of 2009. As I said, he was 14 years old at the time. There is a $5,000 reward that's being offered, and the Ottawa Police have put out not only the reward poster, but a photo of this young boy. He was 14 years old at the time. His name's Justin Rudder. Why don't I do this? This boy was 14 years old at the time. He's 19 years old now, of course. The photograph is one that was taken shortly before he was reported missing. And they've also provided a composite sketch of what he may look like today. A recent tip to the Ottawa Police Service suggests that he may be in Vancouver. So we're, of course, asking anyone that has seen Justin or may know about his whereabouts to contact police. We are working closely with the Ottawa Police Service. Our missing persons investigators are working with their investigators. But any specific questions related to the investigation should be referred to them. I can try and answer anything. Again, those are details that I either don't have or are unable to share. The information that was provided to the Ottawa Police Service is that he may be in the Vancouver area, which is why our investigators are now working closely with theirs. But we're hoping that people have a look at the photograph, have a look at the composite sketch, and if they've seen Justin, even if they've seen him in the last 5 years, the police would like to hear from them.
Are there any other Lower Mainland police forces who are engaged in this effort?
I don't know all of the police forces that have been asked to assist. You'd have to contact Ottawa to find that out.
Is this a runaway situation?
Again, those are questions you'd have to ask Ottawa. I'm not privy to all those details, and I wouldn't want to provide information that's either inaccurate or information that they don't want to share at this point. I don't know when that information was received. We've recently been asked to assist, so I don't know exactly when. Again, you'd have to ask Ottawa the specifics. Okay. Did everyone get a shot of that? Everyone good? Everyone over here? Still good? Okay. All right. And I'm assuming there's some questions about the assault on East 6 from yesterday?
Yeah, how disturbing is it for you guys to hear something like that? Here's a guy who is, trying to do his diligence as a community member, and he gets smacked upside the head by a cinder block. It's got to be pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate incident. There's no doubt about it. We, as the information is coming in, this resident observed these two men in the community garden. There was a verbal altercation that began. There's some suggestion that there was actually some throwing of rocks between the two, not only the resident, but these two men, before the physical altercation with the piece of concrete. We'd like to speak with these two individuals to get the whole story, obviously. One of the things we'd really like to remind people is if they do see suspicious activity, if they see suspicious behavior, that they don't, that their first step shouldn't be to confront someone, but to pick up the phone and call 911.
You're saying there's some suggestion there was throwing of rocks between the two parties. Where is that?
Well, we've managed to speak with a few witnesses. We've spoken with the victim, the 51-year-old man, and from the information we have so far is that it began with a verbal altercation, and that this resident may have actually picked up a small rock and thrown it at these two men. So those are, again, details that we're still working on, but that's the indication we have right now. There's no indication that the throwing of rocks between the resident and these two men ever hit anybody. But once that initial verbal altercation and the throwing of rocks escalated to a physical altercation, unfortunately our victim received some fairly serious injuries. Yeah, I don't have those details, unfortunately. Again, what I'd suggest is if residents in the area are starting to see behavior and activity that is of a concern to them, if they see suspicious people in the area, if they see someone that they don't believe belongs in the neighborhood or is potentially committing a criminal offense, that they give us a call. We say it on a pretty regular basis. If you see something, say something, and say it to 911 first.
They're asking sort of through us that police patrol that area more regularly. Is that something you'll get to?
Yeah, whenever we see a neighborhood that has some concerns, and obviously some of the residents are raising some concerns, our officers will pay special attention to that to a neighborhood. We really rely on the public to be our eyes and ears, though, and we recommend that they pick up the phone if they see something.
Do you have much of a description on the two guys?
We do have a brief description. One's described as being quite tall, about 6'2" or 6'3", slim build, about 180, 190 pounds. The other's about 5'6", about 150 pounds. Both were riding bikes. They were described as looking fairly rough looking or dirty looking, and both with either shaved or bald head.
How's the victim doing?
I think he's doing fairly well. His injuries were described to me as requiring some stitches and potentially a concussion, but otherwise, not in too bad a shape.
So I'm going to explain sort of the situation with the property that's behind me, and after that, Inspector Cumberworth is going to answer some questions in relation to the stolen property and what we see happening in Vancouver over the last couple of years. Recently, on October the 2nd, the Vancouver Police Anti-Fencing Unit did execute a search warrant on Fremlin Street near East 41st Avenue, and this was after receiving information that there was a organized property crime group that allegedly was recruiting throughout Vancouver, stealing property in retail stores throughout the Lower Mainland as well as possibly outside of the province, and that stolen property was being taken to a central location. The stolen property was being taken to a central location in Vancouver where it was being sold to the public through an underground black market. In this case, it was a home on Fremlin Street that was being operated as an underground retail store selling stolen goods to the public at a significant discount of what you'd see for retail prices. Definitely enough of a discount that you would recognize these items as being stolen. Being obtained from local retailers. The clothing items were very high-end items, including Arc'teryx, North Face, Abercrombie & Fitch, some local stores carrying some significantly high-end items. It was noted that there was up to 20 people coming and going from this underground black market store per hour, which was observed by officers that were conducting the investigation, and a significant amount of property going in and out of that location. With the investigation, there was 3 people that were detained or currently being investigated for possession of property obtained by crime, over $5,000. We're looking at, in this one instance, of over $200,000 in stolen merchandise being in the store. As well, as a result of this case, investigators did seize 3 vehicles that were involved or allegedly involved in this incident, and they will be working with asset forfeiture to potentially seize those vehicles. So the public is aware that buying and selling stolen property anywhere within Canada or in the city of Vancouver is a criminal offense. Investigators will actively be pursuing those people that are buying and selling the stolen property, and they do have the potential to arrest or request charges against those people. Recently, on September 24th, the police did execute another search warrant. This was on McKinnon Street in the area of East 43rd Avenue. And it was again a seizure in relation to a home that was allegedly selling stolen property, another underground black market, and this was property in the neighborhood of $100,000 that was taken in this instance. Within the last couple of years, Inspector Cumberworth's team estimate that the property seized in relation to the underground black market of high-end goods is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million solely through the Vancouver Police investigations. This doesn't necessarily account for investigations being handled by outside agencies. So obviously an extremely significant impact. Inspector Cumberworth?
Again, I'd just like to make a couple of points just to emphasize that buyers who are purchasing property from shoplifting rings are actually buying stolen property, so they could face the legal jeopardy of possession of stolen property, and that's something that our property crime units will consider as well. The other point too is that buyers in supporting the shoplifting rings are actually driving the price of property up through retail outlets, and this has a direct impact on honest, legitimate buyers. And as Sergeant Fincham said, that the Vancouver Police Department takes seriously the issue of stolen property, and we have several units dedicated in the department for that purpose. For example, the Anti-Fencing Unit in the past several years has seized substantial amounts of stolen property through its investigations, and as a result, we've seen success in this regard towards stemming or curbing the rise in property crime in the city. I'd also like to emphasize too that the police can't combat this issue alone, that we really do rely on help from the public, and we do rely on tips that come in. So if people do have information about stolen property rings being operated in their neighborhood, please call us. Call our anti-fencing unit, we will investigate, or call Crime Stoppers, and your anonymous information will be passed on to us, and we will investigate as well.
Inspector, is this stuff all going to end up at the police auction?
No, we make every effort to identify the legitimate owners, the victims of the property, and then return that property to them.
A lot of the stuff seems to have tags on it.
That's correct. We see that in our investigations with respect to stolen property rings or shoplifting rings, the rings themselves are set up in a sense like a store. It's not uncommon for us when we enter by way of search warrant to find clothing racks set up in a large room, much like a store would display their merchandise. The clothes are set up on the racks. They're set out by size. They have the property tags on them, the store tags. The store tags, the price of the clothing itself, and then the operators of the shoplifting rings will earn a percentage off the tag amount, the amount on the store tag itself, so the buyer can see how much the piece of clothing is, and then what discount they receive by purchasing it through these operations.
Can you give us the value of this sting again?
In our most recent operation with respect to the house on Fremlin Street, we estimate it was about $200,000.
And again, walk us through some of the brand names people might recognize, the higher end brands.
There's Arc'teryx, North Face, I believe, Holt Renfrew. We can certainly have a look afterwards, but that's just to name a few.
Are they selling online as well?
Not that we're aware of, no. No. Typically, as I said, the operation will be set up in a home. Word is spread throughout the community to select customers, so to say, and then those people will show up and purchase the property.
And how do you prove it's stolen? Did you go back to those stores and catch surveillance video of people taking things, or how do you know?
We confirm it's stolen just by a follow-up investigation, so it certainly helps that the store tag is on the article of clothing, because then we can go back to the store through inventory and so on. We can trace that property back to its legitimate owners.
Can you give us an example, like maybe say like the leather jacket that's hanging over there? What is it tagged at, and what would it have sold for at the the stolen property store, as it were?
some of the articles, I believe in particular that leather jacket, the cost is $500 retail.
And what would it cost if you were buying it on Fremlin Street?
The cost would be about half of that. 50 to 60% of the actual retail price is what a buyer at a shoplifting ring would purchase that piece of clothing for.
So these people have got to know this stuff's stolen.
I would think it's fairly obvious.
For half price or better.
I believe that people who attend these locations, they know it's pretty obvious that what they're buying is stolen property.
And how many people were arrested again?
There were, in the latest investigation, there were 3 people arrested.
What kind of jail time would they, what kind of punishment would they face in something like this? What's sort of reasonable or average?
Sentencing, I can't say. There's many variables in court once we get to the court process, what the outcome may be.
Any of the people charged, were they customers?
The people charged in this case were running the stolen property operation.
If a customer knows that he or she bought something at this Fremlin Street stolen property shop, and maybe they're having some qualms, maybe they're expecting a knock at the door, is there some way that they can give this stuff back?
Certainly, we will always welcome that. If somebody has a sober second thought and wishes to return the property to us, we will gladly accept that from them, so we can return it to the rightful owner.
And do any of the 3 who you've bagged up have priors?
They are known to us, I can say that. Thank you.
Any other questions for me or Brian or related to anything else? No? Come on in, you're more than welcome to take some shots, and we know your sizes, so we'll be watching you. So.